Welcome back to the channel. To ensure that you never miss a true crime story that will send shivers down your spine, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification chime. Today, we examine the case of the Green River murderer, Gary Ridgway, the most prolific serial murderer in the history of the United States, and the decades-long hunt that ultimately resulted in his capture. In the late 1970s, our narrative commences in Washington state. The Green River, a tranquil and picturesque waterway, was shortly the scene of a series of atrocious crimes that would shatter the region's sense of security. At the time, the region was experiencing a concerning increase in the number of missing women, a significant number of whom were sex workers or runaways. An individual who was adept at exploiting invisibility could easily exploit these women, who were vulnerable and disregarded by society. No one could have anticipated the nightmare that was silently unfolding, even though families feared for their loved ones. Several women's corpses were discovered in and around the Green River in 1982. The reality was horrifyingly evident. This was not an accident. The community was confronted with a calculated, cold-blooded predator. They were in the presence of a serial murderer who was just beginning his spree. Enter Gary Ridgway. He was a truck painter, a spouse, and a father who was unremarkable to the outside world. Nevertheless, his true nature was considerably more malevolent when private. Ridgway preyed on the weak, enticed his victims with the promise of money or employment, and then transported them to remote wooded areas near the river. His methodologies were both meticulous and foreboding. He would often strangle them with his bare hands or a ligature after establishing their trust, and then discard their bodies like refuse. At times, he would even revisit their remains, committing acts of necrophilia to relive the control he had over life and death. Fear rippled through the community as the body count increased. The police conducted one of the largest investigations in U.S. history, dedicating significant resources to the pursuit of the elusive murderer. However, Ridgway exercised caution. He possessed the ability to blend in, manipulate, and most importantly, dissolve into the background. The investigation was impeded by the constraints of time. Detectives depended on eyewitness accounts, psychological profiling, and gut instincts in the absence of advanced DNA technology. Ridgway remained unapprehended for years, even though they interviewed hundreds of individuals and pursued every lead. This was followed by the breakthrough. Forensic science finally caught up to the creature in 2001. Investigators were able to establish a connection between Ridgway and numerous victims as a result of advancements in DNA analysis. A name and a visage were given to the Green River killer after nearly 2 decades. Ridgway's confession was beyond disturbing when he was ultimately apprehended. He confessed to the murder of 71 women, although investigators suspect that the actual number may exceed 90. The placid, almost casual manner in which he described each murder, devoid of emotion and remorse, made it all the more unsettling. The room was filled with the families of the victims during the court proceedings, with many of them confronting him for the first time. Ridgway gazed incredulously as his relatives vented their decades of agony, demanding justice. A few individuals wept, a few individuals trembled, a few individuals maintained their reticence. However, Ridgway did not exhibit any significant reaction. Ridgway avoided the death penalty in a controversial plea deal by agreeing to cooperate completely with authorities. He guided them to the burial sites of numerous victims, providing families with the opportunity to correctly bury their daughters, sisters, and mothers years after the fact. The investigation into the Green River killer transcended mere criminal activity. It served as a mirror held up to society, illustrating the ease with which predators can flourish in the shadows when no one is watching, and our neglect of vulnerable communities. His narrative serves as a haunting reminder that malevolence does not necessarily manifest as a monstrosity. Now and then, it appears to be your neighbor, your colleague, a male who is reserved, has a steady occupation, and wears a wedding band. Gary Ridgway's reign of terror persisted for more than 20 years. However, his apprehension provided a glimpse of tranquility, a long-awaited moment of clarity who had endured decades of unanswered questions. The Green River case serves as a grim monument to persistence, demonstrating that the pursuit of justice never ceases, regardless of the passage of time. We are grateful for your participation in this eerie expedition through the shadows. If this narrative captivated you, please consider liking, subscribing, and expressing your opinions in the comments section. Additionally, it is important to bear in mind that the most dreadful creatures may have the most mundane appearances. Until the next time, remain vigilant, remain inquisitive, and never turn your gaze from the darkness.